Hey, welcome back to the BGX podcast. My guest today, TikTok funny man, board game enthusiast, and he suffers from boredom, so you don't have to. Welcome to the show, Drew. How are you today?
Oh, I'm doing wonderful. Thank you, Phil. Thank you for having me on here. I'm super excited to be here. Very just wonderful things happening going on currently. This has been a very busy week for me, but I have been waiting all week for this.
Well, hey, I appreciate you being on. It is an absolute pleasure to have you. So, why don't you get us started off today? Just tell the audience a little bit about yourself, and how you got into the gaming hobby.
Well, before we get into that, I feel like it's rude of me. I didn't even ask you. How are you doing?
I am doing very well. I've got my coffee going, and it's a good Saturday morning here at time of filming. So looks like it's gonna be a sunny Saturday here in Florida, as you know. So
That's good. That's good to hear. So, talking about my board game journey and where it kind of really started, it really wasn't until college. So I went to college in Jackson, Tennessee. Jackson, Tennessee is not a happening city. I just no offense to anybody who lives there, but if I could put it into anything and what get you an idea of what Jackson, Tennessee is like, it is basically this large town of stops where you could stop and get food when you're on your way to either Memphis or Nashville. And so, 2013, my roommate Peter, he had gotten a copy of Catan. That was the very first game that we played. He taught us how to play, only for us to find out later that he taught us wrong in how to play. But um, see, and this is still to this day, it messes me up in my brain, and I have to do cartwheels to try and get that. I think it's you on your turn. I think it's you roll. No, you roll, then you make trades and do whatever you need to do in your move, and then go on to the next person. Whereas we did it completely opposite. You make trades, do your moves, roll. That was it. And he taught us completely different. And so like I told you, my brain has to do cartwheels when I'm thinking about it. And so, anyways, that was the very first game. Peter moves out, and we're sitting there on a Friday night and just absolutely bored. We're like, we don't really have anything to do. Um, and I just said, all right, I'm going to go buy Catan. And I went to my local game store and I bought Catan. And that was the very first board game that I got. And what kind of led me up to today, I started watching this one group on YouTube that was called What Culture. And they don't really do anything with board games. They do more of just everything in the culture. And my favorite individual that was a presenter for that was Adam Blampier, British guy, very witty, very funny. And so they put out a video where he talked about some top board games to get in 2015. And I thought, oh my goodness, that sounds great. I need to make this a list, and if I find these games, I'm gonna get it. So I saw Pandemic was on that list,
okay,
and I was like, oh, I gotta go get Pandemic. So at my local gaming store, I walk in. I have no clue what Pandemic is. I just think all if as long as it says the word pandemic on it, that's it. I go in and I drop $75 on a Pandemic Legacy, and I'm like, "This is how we're gonna play it and everything." And so and so they were like, "Well, what do you do?" "Oh, you rip up cards." And my roommates were like, "No, we're not doing that. That's gonna hurt us."
yeah, it's funny. I actually picked up. It's right here, Legacy Season Zero, and I picked
Okay.
it up for I think like $15, like dirt cheap price, still in shrink. Um, but I still haven't opened it because I don't I like I want to find a way to not damage the game and be able to play it again with different people or let different groups play it. So I'm keeping that one on the shelf until I figure out a way to to make a reusable version.
Yeah, it that pains me to hear that. I'm just going to be honest with you, compared to what I had to do back then. But I was helping out my local gaming store, so I don't feel as bad. And so 2018 was the craziest year of my life. I moved to Florida from Tennessee, and then 4 months after moving, I get married and I'm really focused on this job. And about 2019, halfway through the year, I'd been there for about a year and a couple months. It just doesn't work out. I was let go the same exact week as my wife was starting school. During the time of that Adam Blampier guy creates a board gaming YouTube page called No Rolls Bar, and they start putting out lists and board game suggestions and stuff like that. And I was like, you know what, I'm gonna go do that. Now, this is at the time of where, well, the terrible year of 2020 is starting to draw to an end. And I'm on TikTok and I'm just watching TikToks and everything. And I go, you know what I don't see? I don't see any board game content, like at all. And my very first video I'd ever done, my very first board game related TikTok that I made was board games that are on sale. And that started a list for like 8 months of where every Wednesday I'd come in and say, these are the board games this week that are on sale. And then I was like, you know what? I'm going to start doing my own lists like No Rolls Barred does on YouTube, but I'm going to take it and put it onto TikTok. So I just started collecting. And one day my TikTok just takes off. And I just said, I'm just posting stupid stuff online. I don't feel like I'm any sort of, TikTok celebrity or anything like that. I'm a guy who just enjoys playing board games, and that was it. And people thought, hey, this guy can have some pretty decent comedy. And I was like, I'll take it. My journey to where I'm at right now with board games and what I'm doing is kind of a winding road. And that's just kind of what happened. I'm thankful for where I'm at. Let me just end it with that. I'm thankful for where I'm at, what I'm doing, what's happening. I'm just thankful.
Yeah. So you have had a lot of success on TikTok. Talk to me about that with your wife and with you. How has that changed either your relationship or kind of how you're thinking about the future?
Yeah. So I'm more or less kind of taking it day to day. It hasn't been until this past month, I've had actual board game designers and companies reach out to me and they say, hey, we want you to do a review on our game. And I just think to myself, I'm like, I ain't never had this. I've had to buy my games and give reviews over them. And the relationship with my wife has been great. She's my biggest supporter for what I do. She gets a little annoyed because I'm like, okay, we need to really play this. Come on, let's sit down, and play this. And so my advice is be sure to definitely find a group of friends to play board games with. You're listening to somebody who's had their own mistakes with that. So and so, but overall, like I said, she's my biggest supporter. She thinks that some of the stuff I do is funny. I told her it's funny when she says, "Oh, that's stupid. Don't post that." And I post it anyways, and then it gets 1,000 likes, and I go, "Well, 1,000 people didn't think it was stupid." So, but she's a huge supporter of it, and she knows that this is something that I am passionate about, is creating comedy content on board games. She knows it makes me happy to do these. And so there are times where we butt heads.
I was going to ask you about this. So I understand there's sort of a hot topic about 60-Second City. So I was wondering if you could maybe share some experience with that game with us.
So 60-Second City, we don't really argue. We play a lot of cooperative games. That's what we play. It works best for us and so I was like, this is a cooperative game. We can work together. No. So we played 60-Second City, and my brain was fried at that point. And so the purpose of the game is you have 60 seconds in a round, and you start in the middle square. And what you're going to do is you're going to build out kind of like dominoes. And you're going to build out and try to connect. And you want to get these patterns that match the goal cards. And all you do is with the spread it out tiles that are face down, you pick up a tile, you look at it, and then you place it on the board. And so I would be trying to do one goal, and my wife is like, "Well, what are you doing? What is the matter with you? I told you we are working on this goal," and I would be like, "I'm sorry, And so that was the first time where my wife looked at me and said, "This two-player game is about to become a one-player game, and I'm going to play it because I know I can beat this game. You're just too dumb to do it." So, and so that was the first really heated game we ever played that I was like, "Oh, this is going to end my marriage." So,
Well, one that I that we played recently that I would not recommend if that's the case is 5 Minute Dungeon, which is right there.
okay.
I do not recommend. It's cooperative, and you're on a 5 minute timer, and you got to get through a dungeon of monsters by playing
Mhm.
cards in tandem with each other. And you also have a special ability that only you can play, but nobody knows what you have in your hand. It's chaos, and if you're just don't play it alone with your significant other, and not a great game to play at 9:30 at night after a long day of work either. So so what are some of the favorites on the shelf right now that that either you've played recently and you really liked, or that you're looking to get back to the table soon?
Well, my wife's favorite game is Ticket to Ride. Some of the favorites more recently, King Domino. That's a big one. We've played Villainous again. That's another good one. Me personally, solo player. I have to get back out Horrified. Horrified's in my top five. I really love Horrified so much. Um, Arkham Horror, that's another favorite of mine. I have to really get back into that. Let's see. Next one is Friday. I enjoy playing um, games where I automatically lose. It frustrates me. I used to do Twitch live streams last year, and I did a live stream of where I played Friday, and I would joke and say, "Oh, y'all get ready to see me to lose," and my followers were like, "Oh no, we believe in you. You're gonna do this. You're gonna do this." I played the game 3 times and lost all 3 times. I told him I was like, I can't win at this game for whatever reason. Something happens there. I can't win. So,
So it sounds like you've been on a lot of different platforms. Obviously TikTok I think is your prominent platform, but what have you experienced with some of the other platforms? I mean, what's the kind of pros and cons of each one as you're sort of making the rounds through the social media sites?
the way that I kind of converse with people is TikTok is the easiest for the most exposure.
Mhm.
Instagram has now really started to pick up for me. The board gaming community on Instagram is huge,
Yeah.
and I felt like I'm a small fish in a big pond. So YouTube has really surprised me. I've gone back and forth on YouTube where I've had really good. What are they called? They're called like shorts, I think is what they're called.
Yeah.
And I've had some really good experiences with that. A couple thousand people watch my shorts, but then couple and then some just flop. and
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
but that's the thing, that's the thing I tell people. I'm like, don't dedicate yourself to one individual site. If you're trying to put yourself out there, go all in for others as well. The great thing about at least YouTube is you can schedule, and so
Yeah.
I'm about to have my whole month of April scheduled for these to just release out, and so that's the beautiful thing. Instagram is just staying on top of things, commenting, answering back, posting on your story, interacting with people. TikTok is just post it, see where it goes.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
so
It's always interesting to me to watch the TikTok videos that sometimes I'll get an idea in my head like, oh, this one's going to be good. Like this one's going to do really well and people will really engage with it. And then others that I'm like, yeah, maybe like this is probably just my followers will like this and nobody else. And it's always interesting to kind of see some of the ones that I least expect will take off, and then the ones that I'm like, this one's going to be big, and nobody like it gets 4 likes. Like, yeah, okay, well, I was wrong again. So if you had any advice to give to somebody out there who's saying like, hey, I want to get into content creation, I want to start making board game content or whatever content, what advice would you give those people who are sort of just starting out or just thinking about getting into this space?
There's so much advice that I could give on this space. Not that I'm an expert, but because I've studied it for so
Right.
long and talking from personal experience. The two biggest things are this. Number one, if you immediately start out wanting money, you're not going to succeed at it. I still aspire to have more followers and more people that are in my circle. Um, that's really the biggest thing that I can tell people is number one, don't do it for money. Do it because you enjoy it.
Yeah.
Okay. The money will eventually come, and it's going to start out small.
I think that's such a great point because I feel like so many people jump into being an influencer because they see these huge influencers that are full time and making 125,000 a year, and they're like, "Oh, I'm going to do that. So let me post 3 pictures, and then I'll have 1,000 followers." Like that is not how it works at all. Look back at their, and a lot of the bigger influencers probably have removed their very, very old videos. But if you were able to look at their first video, it's awful. Usually, it's bad lighting, bad editing, bad video, bad angles. Everything's horrible. But the point is that they started, and they started probably with very little expectations.
Oh, absolutely,
And let it
absolutely.
grow organically over time. So I love that point. Thank you for making that point because I think that's such a big one. You have to enjoy the process of getting there. You can't just be focused on, well, where's my 100K paycheck?
Oh yeah, absolutely, absolutely. And the second piece of advice is understanding that content creating is a lot different than it was 10 years ago. Like on YouTube, I think of like people like Markiplier. I love Markiplier. And 10 years ago, he just posted videos of him playing video games, and that was it. And people watched it, laughed at it, all the hard work, everything like that. But now, if you really want to be a content creator, it's not just you posting stuff, it's also you being invested in a community and developing your community, finding the thing that people that your group of people want to watch and talk about and see. It's something that you have to stay dedicated to. And so when I follow you back and I have my I have my uh, on my account, I have this thing where I do it with my mutuals on TikTok, and I call it Only Friends. And that's where I really get to show people what I'm doing on my day to day basis. Anyways, yeah, that's just some of the stuff and advice that I would give towards anybody who wants to do content creating. Because, like, let me just put this out there and just say, post what you want to post. Say, don't do it for the numbers. Don't do it. I just happened into some dumb luck of getting the amount of people that follow me,
Yeah,
but post what you want to post.
definitely. Well, jumping back over to board games. So
Yes.
we talked about some of your favorite games. Who do you have your eye on as far as game designers or publishers? Who are some of your favorites there that you're looking for more games from in the future?
Oh goodness. Pandasaurus, Big Potato Games, just because they really helped me the very first time around on the whole content creating. Um, Prospero Hall. I am a huge Prospero Hall fan. These are the games that I own that are from Prospero Hall right now. Horrified, obviously. Um, I have Jaws. I have Back to the Future, and I'm sure I got one more, but they are um, mostly cooperative. Jaws is like if you have it's a all versus one type of game. So one person plays as the shark and the rest are the fishermen. Back to the Future was a very frustrating game to play just because it was hard to balance. It was like you're balancing a bunch of plates all at once.
Yeah.
And so it was very difficult for my wife and I to be able to complete that game. We finally won. We finally won after playing it 4 times one night. We started playing it. We lost the first time, lost the second time, third time we lost. And we were getting so frustrated. And it wasn't like it's each one of our faults. It's just the way that the game is played and it works out. We eventually beat it. It just happened. We were like, all right, we're done, closed it up, and really haven't played it since, but we need to. And I tried to get my wife to play the Arkham Horror game,
Mhm.
and she kind of liked it, but it got to a point where there's so many rules. She was like, "I have no idea what you're doing," and I said, "That's okay. That's okay. Just play along with me, and
Yeah.
we'll work this out." Let's see. There's one that I want to play with a larger group. It can be played two player, but I think it'd be better. I just got uh, Whitehall Mystery, and it's
Okay.
the game of Jack the Ripper. And so it's one of those games where it's everybody's working together, everybody versus one. One person's Jack the Ripper, you're running away, uh, unaliving people,
Mhm.
and then the rest are playing the police, and they're coming to look for Jack, and they're trying to find it. And it's a very suspenseful game because as soon as you find one clue that Jack has left, and saying that he's been here at this one point in the last like two turns or whatever, then everybody starts to freak out and they're just
Mhm.
like, "Oh, where is it? We gotta find it."
Yeah.
And just it is a wild but fun and suspenseful game.
So yeah, it's funny you mentioned about too many rules. There's so many games coming out and that have come out with thick rule books. One of the apps that I've seen lately is an app called Dized. I don't know if you've heard of it. Dized, and they have like fully animated tutorials and like a walkthrough of the game all on the app built in with the actual artwork and components all built into the app. If you haven't checked it out, I recommend it. They're not sponsoring the podcast or anything, but they can call me. But
That's what I was starting to think. I was like, sponsor, clip it, send it to
yeah,
them.
right. But we played Bang the other day, which isn't I mean, not a super complicated game, but if you're playing for the first time and you're trying to just sit down and play, that can be challenging with somebody trying to flip through the rule book frantically as we're trying to figure the game out. The app literally just set it in the middle and click the number of players and it goes and it tells you exactly what to do and how to get started. So really cool app. I recommend it.
Oh, absolutely. It's just something about watching a video and seeing the way that it's set up. For some people, it just makes it a whole lot easier.
Yeah.
Now, now the difficult one was when I had to learn how to play Arkham Horror long ago. I don't know if you've ever played Arkham Horror, the card game, but it comes with like two rule books. And so it is a massive amount of stuff you got to know. There's a reference book and then there's a rule book. And I had to go watch videos because I was like, I'm gonna have to read this before bed every night to get understanding of how to play this. And I would watch these videos that was like how to play it in under 5 minutes, how learn how to play in under 7 minutes, and all this stuff. And I didn't have the attention span to deal with that. You know what I mean? I was
Yeah.
just like, ah. So then I was like, all right, I got to break down and watch Rodney's video on watch it played. I was like, I don't want to watch a 45-minute video, but I'm gonna have to at this
Yeah.
point.
Yeah. So
Phil,
as
let
we're
me.
as we're talking about kind of games, getting people into the hobby and making it easier, what are those games that you turn to as sort of your hallmarks to as you're introducing games to new people who are not in the hobby yet?
Let's see. I'm thinking horrified. That's the first one. It's not too difficult. It's not. It's a little bit more difficult than Monopoly or any
Mhm.
other sort of games, but it's not that difficult to learn. You just if as soon as you understand how to do it, it's easy. It's fun. You'll never forget how to play it. Ticket to Ride is a go-to always because that was the thing that got my mom into board gaming and
Yeah.
playing that type of thing. Um, and so those are kind of the first two that immediately come to mind.
Yeah, I just picked up a copy of Ticket to Ride New York in a lot from Facebook Marketplace this week, and I was reading some reviews of it, and people were saying like this is a great game if somebody is just very unsure about board gaming in general because the
Right.
playtime is like 10 minutes. I mean, it's everything. I mean, 90% of the mechanics from Ticket to Ride, but it's on a much smaller map, much smaller scale, 4 players. Like you can get through an entire game in 10 minutes and be done. then you basically ask the person, did you enjoy that? Do you want to go varsity and play the real one? Or,
Yeah.
so I like that. I'm going to use that game for my friends who are not in the hobby at all. And like, like, hey, do you want to play a board game? They're like, yeah, we love Sorry. Like, okay, this is like
Let's
Sorry.
play something. Yeah, kind of. I would say another one would be King Domino. If it's just me and one friend or whatever, Patchwork. That's
Okay.
always a good one.
Yeah, I
Again,
think Patchwork's a great one. My wife and I we bought it recently. It's right there. My wife and I played it though, and she ended up hating it. She did not enjoy the game at all because she likes very interactive and competitive. Like she wants to be the person who's like blocking you and getting in your way. She's 5'2" and looks real innocent, but she couldn't. That cannot be further from the truth. She's a killer when it comes to games. So we finished the game, and I think I won one, and she won one, and she was like, "I won, but I really wanted to beat you. Like, I wanted to, I wanted to beat you." So,
yeah,
we got to go more when it's just the two of us. We got to go more into the competitive scene, I think, because cooperative or I mean, Patchwork's not cooperative, but it's not very interactive. You're kind of doing your thing, they're kind of doing their thing, and it's sort of
yeah.
you know
And you can't really mess them up.
I
Like,
mean,
there might
you
be.
can kind of like, oh, I'm gonna take this tile because you probably need it, but like, okay, it's not super interactive where you're stealing tiles off each other's boards or anything.
Oh yeah, absolutely. We like it just because of how simple and easy that it was,
Yeah.
and it was very quick for us to learn how to play it. I'm thinking Mice and Mystics. That's a good one for people
Okay.
who want to get into D&D. You want your kids to get into D&D eventually. Not Mice and Mystics. That's a great board game that gets them thinking about fantasy and all sorts of different things. Herd Mentality. That was a really fun game. Dixit. That's a really fun game. Great starter games to get people into it. My dad, who hates almost every single board game I ever bring to the table with him during family visits. Uh, the he actually enjoyed Herd Mentality, and he enjoyed Dixit. And I said, I'm going to take my small victories here. Um, so yeah, those are just some games that I would say, yeah, those are the games to really get started in. Oh, Telestrations. That's
Okay.
another one. That's
Yeah.
another party game. It's like telephone. I'm sure you know
Yeah.
about it. I'm
Yeah.
sure. Yeah. So it's just like telephone. You get a word, you draw that, somebody guesses, and somebody else has to guess, or somebody else has to draw what that person previously guessed, and it just keeps going. And it's so easy to get off the path of what it needs to be. So
Well, hey, Drew, if people want to find your accounts or find you, where can they look? Where should they be checking you out for more content around board games?
absolutely. It has been an absolutely wonderful experience being on the Board Game Experience podcast. Thank you so much for that. Where you can find me is you'll be able to find me on TikTok, Instagram, and you'll be able to find me over on YouTube. If you want to follow me on Twitch or subscribe on Twitch, that you can do that too. You'll be able to find me on TikTok. My TikTok at is at Boredom one, and that is board as in board games, and then like dumb like kingdom. So boredom one. That's going to be it. Same thing over on Instagram, except it's going to be 11 instead of one. And in let's see, YouTube and Twitch, it's going to be welcome to the number two boredom. Welcome to boredom. So.
Oh, cool.
As well, on top of finding me on social media, be sure to find my other group of people. I have a board game group that we're starting up next month of recording content of us playing games via Zoom or any other ways that we're going to be able to play. We are called the Inglorious Boardsters. You can find us on TikTok and Instagram. And I want to give a shout out to all of those people. Those people are wonderful, amazing group of people, content creators. And be sure to check us out. And starting next month, we're going to start playing and recording, and we're going to talk about we're going to start just playing board games and having fun. So be sure to check us out with that.
Awesome. Awesome. Well, you heard it here. You can go check out Drew on those channels. Check out his TikTok. He's got some great content on there. Very funny guy. Very funny videos. So, Drew, I appreciate you being on the show today. Thank you so much for your time, and we will, I'm sure, reconnect very soon.
I'm looking forward to being on here again.
Awesome. All right. Appreciate it, Drew. Have a great day. Thanks.
Thank you, Phil. You too.